How you're doing again, Cody there, back again, dropping another video. Right, this video is going to be on, as you can tell from the title, about suicides in prison. Right, in 2016, it was the highest year for suicides in prison. Right, 119 people took their own life. Um, like I say, it's a big problem within prisons now. I want to address a couple of reasons that I think personally, as a former prisoner, why people sought to take their own life. Um, the first thing the first thing I want to speak about is mental health issues within prisons. Like when you get assessed and stuff, and you land at the prison, or you processed, sorry, should I say processed, right? You sit there with a nurse, right? They've got no medical background on you at all. There's no medical report from your doctor. They don't have access to your medical records. The doctor doesn't have access to your medical records, right? Because it's the prison. Right, it's still the NHS, but it's prison, isn't it? Right, the only person that holds records for you are your doctors, right? Your local doctors, i.e., whether you're in Manchester, London, wherever your local doctors are. So, like I say, there's a hell of a lot of people going to prison with mental health issues, right? And like I say, if you've got mental health issues, right, you need to be on you need to be on like whether it be antipsychotic drugs or antidepressants and stuff like that, right? But like I say, you're just thrown into prison because that's seen as the answer, right? And what it leads to is if you suffer. I was in prison. I've been in prison like I said a couple of times, and I've become friends with and befriended lads that have had personality disorders, that have been bipolar, that suffer anxiety, depression, anger issues, PTSD, yeah, and paranoid schizophrenia, amongst others. And like I say, these people should not be in prison. When you tell me how being confined in a small cell, right, for long periods of time with no medication because you've not been assessed to by the mental health team at the prison as having like schizophrenia or an antisocial like personality disorder or something like that, right? So people are going untreated, right? And prison's a very paranoid place anyway, right? Prison for me personally, right? If you've got mental health issues, right? Prison, honestly, in my honest opinion, being locked away from your loved ones, not being able to do what you want to do and go about your business. Obviously, it's prison, that's part of your punishment, and so on and so forth. But I'm talking about people with mental health issues and stuff. Prison, when you go to prison, it can right, for those that haven't got mental health issues, when they go to prison, it can start mental health issues, right? We're social animals, we're social creatures, right? That's what we do. We interact with each other. That's how we are, right? And being locked in prison and stuff behind your door, you're not able to socialize. You're not able to like your thoughts resonate in your mind and stuff, and that's why they have medication. People have, like I say, people that take antipsychotic medication and stuff, right? They fly under the radar, right? Prisons doubling up as mental health units, right? The truth of the matter is, the fact they're not mentally health trained, the screws, right? The healthcare team, there's only so much they can do, right? And like I say, it's leading on to people leaving prisons in body bags. Now, that's a very bold statement, but it's a simple fact, guys. Like, people are choosing, like, suicide as a way out, right? Now, like I say, there's a lot of people go to prison, right? And prison is easy day to day, but, like, mentally, it fucks you up, right? I can relate to that, right? I've been in prison, I've been locked behind my door, I've been 23-hour bang up, right, in Strangeways, Cat A prison here in Manchester, right? I've been in a Cat B where you get a bit more association, but again, mental health is a big cause for concern. And like I say, these lads are flying under the radar and stuff, right? The self-harming, people that have never self-harmed in their life are slashing up, right? And I don't mean little niggly little slits, right, for attention. I mean big fucking trying to sever arteries and stuff, and fucking veins and arteries and stuff, right? Big things, yeah. And it's to release like a physical, like they try to release the mental pain with physical pain, i.e. cutting themselves and stuff. I've never done it myself or anything like that. I've seen it. I was a cleaner, right? There was one lad, he sort of zoned out, right? He jumped up on the barriers and stuff, and I'm guilty of this myself. I threatened him myself. I said, look, you better fucking get down. We just sat down for our meal, the cleaners, yeah, and a kid jumped up on the bars, yeah. He'd just come back from a visit or something, and he jumped up on the bars, yeah, and then you could see the look in his eye. He was going to jump. There's no doubt about it in my mind. He was going to jump. I went from being the aggressor, because I could see it snapped, right, to I walked around the barrier. I walked around, and there was 2 screws either side of him and stuff, and they was going to long bang us up, right? And I actually looked at the guy. I made eye contact with him. I said, look, I said, don't, please. I see, because I see it happened before on G2, when I was on G2 at Forest Bank. A nonce jumped out over the thing and smashed his skull in and all that. I've spoke about that in previous videos. And he could see that something wasn't right in his eyes. He had a vacant look about him. He wasn't with it, and he was going to jump. There's no doubt about it in my mind. And I just said, look, ignore the lads. I said, come down, look at me. He got down and gave him an hug. He got put in a cell. Within 2 minutes of him being put in his cell, we carried on eating. Next minute, nurses come running onto the wing. He's slashed up. It's slashed up bad. And like I say, if it wasn't for the quick reactions of the medical staff, the healthcare team that came in, he would have died. There's no doubt about it. There was claret absolutely everywhere. Like I say, there was a kid that was on the cleaners, yeah. There was a couple of cells that weren't cleaners, about 3 or 4 cells, right. And there was this Cockney kid, yeah, and he used to hassle me all the time, yeah. And I thought, oh, fucking do one, mate. You're mithering me every 2 minutes. He was mithering. And you know what, yeah? We got a new cleaner, and the new cleaner wanted his cell, right. And for some reason, this kid, right, a mate of mine next door to me, a cleaner, told me like he'd done life, yeah. I think he'd done 20 odd years, right, of a life sentence, yeah, straight up. And he'd been knocked back for his parole and everything. And he was begging to stay in this certain cell, and we couldn't work out why. It later transpired that he'd melted a hole through a thing and was going to melt another hole so he could put his sheet in and what we call string up. For those that don't know, string up is where he makes a noose and was going to hang himself. And like I say, that when you've got nothing to look forward to, right, when people are lifed off and stuff, right, they've got to serve a minimum, right, and the minimum, and then you've got parole, then you're in front of the parole board and stuff, and if they keep getting knocked back and stuff, there's no light at the end of the tunnel for them guys. So they seek a way out. People are screaming in prison for help and for mental health assessments and stuff, and the truth of the matter is, when they're on the buzzer, right, the buzzer, for those that don't know, in each prison cell, you've got a buzzer, and it's classed as an emergency. You're supposed to use it in an emergency. When lads are using it as an emergency because they've flashed up or something, they're being ignored. Like I said, I've been out and stuff. I'm standing at the screws office, yeah, when people are on the buzzers, and the screws are just like, oh, they just carry on doing the paperwork. And the difference is, that could be a difference between life and death. A kid, while I was inside, set his cell on fire trying to kill himself. I spoke about it in my Cellfire video that's further down my timeline and stuff. He'd been laid out by a screw, he'd had enough and set his cell on fire, trying to kill himself. And then, like I say, if he would have succeeded, he would have left prison in a body bag. There's too many people leaving prisons in body bags. And do you know why the reason is? Like, I do what I do on my Twitter, my Twitter handles down there. Like, people are ignoring people with mental health issues within prison, and it's leading on to serious consequences. Like, when people are leaving prison in body bags, it's not right. I mean, how many more people have got to die? The Ministry of Justice just sit there and they do nothing. Do fucking nothing. People are dying on a daily basis. There's one in Norwich, in HMP Norwich, who's just he's been declared dead in the last 24 hours. God bless him. May he rest in peace. My thoughts and prayers are with his family. Another prisoner checks out. It's not always mental health issues, right? People might have terminally ill, like parents, or they can't act, that they're away from the kids for long periods and stuff like that. And the thing is as well, people with mental health issues, they get targeted by other prisoners as well, which doesn't help the situation. Within each wing within the prison, you have what they call a listener. A listener, normally on the cleaners, well, always on the cleaners, right? Is a listener who's been trained to, like a Samaritan sort of thing, where you can speak to them and they can give you help and advice and stuff and take you under the wing. Definitely use them, guys, if you're in a low ebb in prison. Prison, like I say, when you sat there, right, and you've got all these thoughts in your mind, while you're in prison, right, it's like a roller coaster, yeah, right. Not for everybody. Some people are always low, right. They suffer depression, they suffer anxiety, antisocial behavior, or like antisocial syndrome and stuff. Some people have good days and bad days where you're high, you're low, you're high, you're low. You've got that sort of roller coaster ride going on. When you're high because people take, like, not talking about drugs, just talking about, like, you might have had a visit that day, you might have got your canteen. When people get canteens in prison, right, when you've ordered canteen and food comes and stuff, it's like a morale booster, so to speak, only a bit. When you have visits and stuff, that's a big morale booster. When you get letters and cards from your loved ones, very, 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 you can't even put a price on just how much that does for people's mental health and for their mood and stuff like that. The banning smoking in prison as well, which is going to lead on to all sorts of problems. People smoking raw spice in raw form, i.e. on its own, just in a Rizzler with a fucking roach, and smoke it. That's going to lead on to problems. Like I say, when you're in prison, you've got this roller coaster ride of ups and downs and stuff. And like I say, the longer you're in and you've got that, there's no excitement apart from if it kicks off on the wing. There's no excitement. There's nothing going on. You don't have any mental stimulation, really. Like, there's only so much shit. There's only so many times you can watch Jeremy Kyle on TV. You see where I'm going? And people have these thoughts, and they resonate, and they resonate, and they resonate, and they're just forgotten about. And then these thoughts, these dark thoughts of, I don't want to do this anymore, they slowly take over and consume the person, so much so that the whole personality and the demeanour changes. And they seek a way out, whether that's suicide attempts, slashing up, stringing up, hanging themselves, as I've alluded to, drug overdosing. People are chemically imbalanced in the brain, right? And because they're not getting the medication that they need, right, they're substituting it, and they're taking spice or pregabs, which is a strong painkiller, and people are breaking it up as a tablet and sniffing lines of it, right? And people are taking every drug that's offered to them to try and get out of that low place. But when you get high on a drug, you've got the come down, and the come down's far worse than where you was originally. And the thoughts resonate and resonate and resonate. And like I say, it's the Ministry of Justice's fault in my eyes. Every prisoner that come in, they should have medical reports done. They should write to the doctors, find out what the mental health needs are for people. Some people might not have them. Some people might have no issues, right? Some people might just be able to soldier on and do the jail, right? Other people, but I'm talking about the people that are relevant, that might suffer depression, anxiety, bipolar, paranoid schizophrenia, paranoia, so on and so forth, right? The prison should write to the doctors, get a full medical background on the person, find out any medication they're on, and then that person should be assessed by a mental health worker, i.e. whether it's a shrink or something like that. If that person's deemed to be vulnerable in prison because of their mental health, they should be then transferred to a psychiatric unit where they can be given drugs and stuff. And drugs aren't always the answer, I understand that. I mean, I'm talking about prescribed drugs and stuff. But if you're chemically imbalanced in your brain and you need medication to think right, people in prison are being deprived of it because there's no care for them. There's no care. Right? So like I say, they should be assessed by mental health teams so that then they can go into mental health units, because obviously they can't just cut them on the street and let them go because they've got mental health issues, right? I don't expect that. I'm not stupid. But like I say, prison, being in a mental health unit or being in prison is a choice between life and death for patients that have got mental health issues and stuff. Like I say, no one should go to prison and leave in a body bag unless they're on a whole life tariff, and then obviously I get that. Or they die in prison natural causes. That can't be helped. God bless people that die in prison on natural causes. But like I say, my thing's the mental health and stuff. there's a lot of people that go to prison with no mental health issues, right, and are leaving prison as drug addicts, or they develop mental health issues because they've been like, they're not able to socialize because they've been locked behind the door and stuff. Like I say, when you've got them thoughts and them dark thoughts in your mind, and they resonate, and you're not getting medication to help that chemical imbalance in your brain, and people are substituting what they should be taking because they're being given nothing, they're taking spice and every other illegal drug and illicit drug, it's leading on to death within prison, whether it be stringing up, suicide, like overdosing, slashing up, stuff like that. And I've seen it all too long. Like, it's not even funny when you see it in prison, like I say, and the people with mental health issues are targeted and stuff. Like I say, if people are in mental health units, right, they're medicated and stuff, they'd be at least a bit happier in themselves because they're being medicated than being left to rot and ruin and develop further mental health issues in prison by not being looked after and stuff. And like I say, it would lead on to less suicides within prison, which, like I say, one suicide in prison is too much. Honestly, it sickens me and it saddens me, guys, that the Ministry of Justice are doing nothing. Right, guys, as always, please feel free to like, comment, subscribe. If you've got any comments relevant to the video, please leave them below, and I'll get back to you guys. Thank you very much for watching. Speak to you all soon. Cody out. Bye.